Hey guys, today I am going to recap a 2008 American computer-animated action-adventure film called Bolt. I love the movie very much and hope you would like to. So without further ado, let's start with the recap. The movie begins in a pet store, where all the puppies are seen following each other and moving in a pack except for the white one, who's playing with a squeaky carrot toy. An 8-year-old girl named Penny comes into the store and buys the white puppy, giving it a collar with the name tag Bolt. 5 years later, 13-year-old Penny and her friend Bolt are in the park when Penny receives a phone call from her father, who turns out to be a television actor pretending to be Penny's father. Her father tells her that someone is chasing him and he won't be home for a while, as he warns Penny not to go back to the house. The evil Dr. Calico sneaks up on him before he's interrupted. Penny's father assures her that the Bolt will protect her, and a video montage plays, revealing that her father, a scientist, has a genetically altered Bolt that grants him a variety of superpowers as well as the distinctive black lightning mark on his flank. Back to the story. Penny uses a pair of enhanced binoculars to spy on one of Dr. Calico's associates, who is speaking to him via hologram video. She sees that they've kidnapped her father and are torturing him to speak up about his research work. Dr. Calico says that he knows how to make Penny reveal his secrets and that they just need to get him a package first. Calico's associate then leaves the building, and Penny and Bolt follow him from a distance down an alleyway, but at one point he disappears and then a car is seen racing toward them. Bolt runs toward the car and makes it fly in the air. The car lands upside down behind him upon impact, and a Bolt holds the car over the side of a bridge in order to make him tell them where Calico is being frightened. He then says that Calico is in Bolivia, but they've been tracked down by a group of helicopters and motorcycle bad guys armed with electrified gloves, who are chasing them down using her helmet computer. She sees a flight about to leave for Bolivia, so they head toward the airport. She tells him to use the zoom zoom trick, where he grabs onto a piece of rope and pulls her scooter at very high speed down the highway. One of the bad guys pulls out a bomb shaped like a frisbee and attaches it to a gas tanker driving next to a school bus. Penny tells Bolt to fetch it, so he leaves her briefly and pulls the bomb off, leaving it on the bad guy's head. The bad guy freaks out and throws it upwards, accidentally destroying the last helicopter, and when he realizes what he's done, he faces bombs himself on the forehead with his electrified glove, which makes him crash into the highway with all the bad guys dispatched. Penny and I continue to the airport. But before they get far, they are confronted with an army of Caliphate forces, and it seems like they are about to get caught. Penny tells Bolt to speak Bolton, and with his supersonic bark, he creates a supersonic boom that literally blows away the entire army. After Bolt has defeated the army, Penny picks him up and enters a trailer with Bolt's name on the side. After the door is closed and all the bad guys get up, the background lifts, and people start clearing away the wreckage, revealing that the whole thing was actually part of a movie set for an adventurous action-packed television series called Bolt. Meanwhile, inside a studio, a group of staff members entered the editing room, where the director was going through the footage from the day's shooting. Everything is going fine until they get to one shot. It turns out that there's a boom microphone visible in the background. The director starts screaming at the crew that if the dog could have seen them, they could never capture his natural expression. The dog Bolt has been raised in such a way inside the studio that he has never been in the real world and thinks that he is really a super dog. In fact, he is not back in the trailer, but she is still freaking out because he thinks she's still in danger. So he just stands at the door and growls in protection mode. Penny tries to distract them in many ways but fails just then when Penny's cell phone rings and she has to leave the locking Bolt inside the trailer outside the trailer. Penny's mother and her agent meet her. Penny asks her agent if she can take a Bolt home for the weekend. The really annoying agent gives her a lot of roundabout talk and finally says no because if Bolt goes off the set he will know the reality and they can no longer capture his real expression. A little later, Dr. Calico's pet cats wander in. One of the cats is new, so the other cat tells him how Bolt believes it's all real, and they like to torment him by playing along. They jump on top of Bolt's trailer, open the sunroof, and taunt him as they do regularly. The next day, back in the show, Penny and Bolt sneak into Dr. Calico's lair to try and rescue her father. This time we see how all the cameras are hidden and how they do some of the special effects. There's a camera underneath the truck that they sneak in on, and the bad guys that Bolt defeats are just throwing themselves backward on distant cushions, and the staffs do the work so perfectly that Bolt never figures it out. However, they sneak into the computer room and Bolt, knocking out the guard at the computer with a karate chop to the neck. Penny gets on the computer and tries to use it to find her father, but Dr. Calico and his cats interrupt, and the whole thing was actually a trap. The computer chair turns into a capsule, trapping Penny inside, and she's lifted away as well. Watches helplessly. He tries to run after her, but a staff member in protective gear grabs him and pulls him back, stuffing him into a cage. Penny demands that the staff let her see him because he will be thinking she's in danger and doesn't understand that in reality she's okay, but the staff won't let her now that they've taken us over. Dr. Calico's cats decided to go torment Bolt some more as they open up the sunroof. Bolt uses the staff member's head as a boost and jumps out of the trailer and runs into the studio. He desperately finds his friend Penny, and he tries to break the window with his super strength. But of course it doesn't work, and he only ends up knocking himself out. He falls into one of the boxes and is packed up by a staff member and shipped out. He wakes up on the other side of the country, in New York, where the boxes have been delivered. The guy unpacking the boxes sees one of them and opens it. He jumps out and runs out onto the streets of New York. However, he sees what he thinks is the capsule containing Penny, which is actually a portable toilet with a symbol that looks like Calico's eye on it. He rushes toward the truck with bravery, but it is the driver who breaks the vehicle in time, saving the dog. When Penny's not inside, he decides that they must have moved her, and now he doesn't know where to look. While he's in New York, he tries to use his superpowers, but of course, they don't work. He falls in the middle of his super jumps and can't break through a fence with his super strength, and when he tries to knock out a man who looks like Calico from the back, he taps him on the shoulder like usual, but nothing happens to the man. He assumes he must have been weakened somehow by Calico. Next, he meets a group of pigeons who think they've seen him somewhere before but can't remember where, even as two buses with giant ads for the Bolt TV show pass by. They see that some of the styrofoam peanuts are stuck to his fair Bolt, who has never heard of styrofoam before, and conclude that it must be some kind of evil substance that negates his superpowers. He thinks that he needs to find someone close to Dr. Calico. He tells them about Dr. Calico's black cat, which he always has with him. The pigeons appear to have an epiphany and inform him that they know exactly where to find such a cat. Recut to Mittens, an LA cat, who rules over the pigeons of New York every day in exchange for her protection. The pigeons are tortured by him, and to fulfill their revenge, they bring a Bolt to him. Bolt immediately tackles her and forces her to tell him where Penny is. Mittens has no idea what he's talking about. Bolt eventually holds her over a bridge and threatens to throw her into traffic if she doesn't give him what he wants. Mittens thinks he's crazy and finally lies that she'll help him find Penny so that he won't drop her. She sees a Hollywood address on the back of his collar tag and tells him that's where Penny is. Bolton finds a truck that two guys are loading a sofa into, and he sneaks in by hiding himself and his Mittens underneath the sofa. Mittens don't believe that Bolt has superpowers and just thinks he's crazy. Mittens notices a baseball bat in one of the boxes. Mittens is about to hit him with the bat, but it's too heavy for her, and she crashes into a stack of boxes, sending one of them down onto Bolt's head. It doesn't hurt him, but the fact that it's filled with styrofoam peanuts and a Bolt freaks him out. Jumping out of the moving truck and rolling down a hill, Mittens is dragged along behind him. Suddenly his stomach growls, and he freaks out again, thinking that the styrofoam peanuts poison him since he was always fed regularly at the studio. He's never really been hungry before. Mittens is surprised that he doesn't know what it's like to be hungry. Even though Bolts believes she poisoned him and demands the antidote. Mittens says that the antidote is food, so they find an RV rest stop where many RVs are parked with families picnicking and grilling burgers. Mittens teach both of them how to bag so that when the family is locked out of their RVs and sees him, they can throw food for the adorable dog. Mittens try it too, but she gets a pan thrown at her when she does it. One of the RVs is owned by a little old lady who has a bunch of pet hamsters. Most of them are in cages, but one of them is out on an exercise ball, leaning on the remote and flipping through the channels on the TV. When the old lady leaves to get some food for Bull, the hamster recognizes him and rolls out of the trailer to follow them. The hamster introduces himself as Rhino and is totally excited to be meeting Bolt, whom he says is his hero. Mittens are surprised that he knows of Bolt, and he is even more surprised when Bolt says that Rhino can accompany them. Not only because Rhino is an overly excited idiot, but because she can't believe they want to leave the RV park. She believes they should stay because new RVs will be opening all the time, providing them with a safe place to sleep and a steady supply of food. She doesn't understand why Bolt is so obsessed with saving Penny. Bolt claims that Penny is his person, and Mittens laughs. Back in Hollywood, Penny is distraught over Bolt's disappearance. However, Penny's agent comes in and says he has good news. Penny thinks they found a Bolt, but it's really just that she's gotten the spot. As the lead guest on the Tonight Show, Penny doesn't care and doesn't want to go on the show. She wants to show her agent's horror. Meanwhile, Bolt and Rhino decides that they will hop on a train by jumping on it as it passes underneath a bridge, which makes Mittens tremble in fear because she knows very well that they are all going to be killed. She tries everything she can to stop him but fails, and Bolt jumps down with them three, causing terrible consequences for them. Luckily, they somehow manage to escape getting smashed. They travel to a suburb, where Mittens climbs a tree and calmly tells her to get down, but when she doesn't, he becomes enraged and plans to blow her away with a super bark. Bolt releases a massive super bark, but he's utterly surprised because nothing happens to her. He repeatedly tries to make sarcastic remarks from the tree branch above. When Mittens saw a truck approaching, she told Bolt to stop barking, but Bolt continued to bark, and the truck saw them. It was animal control, and they grabbed Bolt and Mittens. Rhino somehow manages to escape their gaze and survive. Cut to the studio. Penny's agent comes in, saying they found a Bolt. Penny is excited at first, but when they bring out the new dog, she realizes that the new dog isn't bolting. It's a trained actor's dog that just looks like him. At first, she refuses to work with the new dog. But when she is told that if she doesn't start working, many innocent people are going to lose their jobs and their kids may die starving, she agrees to work with the new dog in the truck. Bolt and the Mittens are separated and put in cages next to each other. Bolt makes numerous attempts to escape, including staring at the lock and trying to melt it with his laser eyes. Since none of his powers work, he deduces that the truck must be made of styrofoam. He ignores Mittens when she tries again to tell him that he doesn't really have superpowers and that even his lightning bolt mark isn't real. It's just makeup. However, Bolt refuses to give up and keeps trying to bash his way outside with his head. Meanwhile, Rhino figures out how to open his ball from the inside, and he sets off after them. He jumps on when the truck stops for gas, and as Bolt continues trying to bash his way out, he starts pulling at the lock. He finally gets it free just as Bolt runs at the door again, and it breaks open, tossing him and Rhino out into a nearby field. Bolt is overjoyed at this proof that his powers work until he notices his Rhino, who informs him that he opened the lock from the outside, at which point Bolt realizes Mittens was correct all along and he doesn't have any powers. He runs his paw along his lightning bolt mark, and the makeup comes off on his paw. Dejected, he realizes he can't really do anything after all. Rhino, astonished at his heroes doubting themselves, makes a speech telling Bolt that he's a hero to all animals who think they can't do anything and that right now Mittens needs him to be a hero for her. The three animals make their way outside amidst the flaming wreckage. Bolt still wants to go to California because he still believes that Peen is in danger and he must save her by any means. However, they use some highway vehicles to get to Hollywood, the place where Bolt believes Penny is held captive, after a long journey. By now, the animals have reached Las Vegas and are having a really enjoyable time of their lives. However, at one point, Mittens disappears for a while, then comes back and says she wants to show Bolt something. She leads him to a pile of junk where she sets up some cardboard boxes, one for her and one for him. He even has a soft cushion that she stuffed with styrofoam, and he can let the box flaps down whenever he wants some privacy. Mittens are surprised that Bolt wants to stay, and Bolt is equally surprised that Mittens doesn't. But Bolt insists on finding Penny, so Mittens drags him out to where they can see a giant billboard advertising his TV show, showing him a picture of Penny. Penny says that she doesn't really love him. She's just an actress doing her job. Bolt refuses to believe it, and Mittens gets angry, saying that humans don't really care about them. She gets angry enough that she reveals that she didn't leave her owners by choice. They just abandoned her one day, leaving her to fend for herself. I feel sorry for her. But he says that Penny is not the type of person who would abandon him, and he still insists that he needs to get back home. Vuitton says she's sorry she ever took pity on him. And Bolt doesn't leave without wishing Mittens luck. Meanwhile, Rhino discovers the Mittens and inquires about the whereabouts of the Bolt, but the Mittens lack the courage to tell him the truth. So instead, she tells him that Bolt said he needed to go fight the green-eyed man alone, and Rhino starts to go after him because he believes that it doesn't fall under the ethics of friendship to leave a friend alone. Mittens also realizes that she mustn't abandon Bull after all and goes with Rhino back to Bull, who has finally reached Hollywood. He manages to get into the studio without being noticed and even gets on set and finds his trailer again. He's excited to see his home again and starts playing with his old squeaky carrot. Meanwhile, Mittens and Rhino have arrived in Hollywood and had to head towards the television studio to find Bolt as they enter the studio. Right on their tail is one of the actors who plays Dr. Calico's henchman, standing in costume outside the set, rolling up and attempting to defeat him by pushing against his leg. The actor saw him and picked him up, cooing over what an adorable hamster he was. He was about to bolt when he heard Penny's voice and had the carrot in his mouth. He runs off. He can see her at the end of a hallway calling his name, but not yet. Looking at him as he runs towards her, happy to have finally found his person again, the trained dog runs into view, leaping into Penny's arms, and Penny laughs and says your mind is made up. Good boy. Broken-hearted bolts back into the shadows before Penny can see him, then turns and leaves, believing that Mittens was right when she said that Penny doesn't care about him. Just as he leaves the train, the dog jumps out of Penny's arms and runs to his trainer, who is his real master. The whole thing was just a rehearsal for an episode. Penny looks upset and hugs her mom, saying that she still misses Bolt up in the rafters. A witness to the whole thing realizes that she was wrong about Penny. The DB crew sets up Dr. Calico's lair, attaching Penny onto a chest harness and making it look like she's tied up and hung from a rope. The set is dark and spooky, with lots of lit torches and fire effects. They start to film the scene where Penny's father is taken into the lair and the scene where Dr. Calico thanks him in advance for revealing his secret scientific research to them when he says he'll never give them his research. Dr. Calico shows him that he's captured Penny and will kill her if he doesn't comply. Penny summons Bolt and the trained dogs, who charge through the fake doorway growling when Dr. Calico summons his henchmen. Though the dog gets scared of their electrified gloves and runs away, accidentally knocking over some of the torches. The set catches fire, and all of the crew panics, running over each other in an attempt to evacuate in the confusion. No one notices Penny still hooked up, calling for help. On the other side, Bolt is sad and is leaving the studio. Luckily, there's Penny calling for help from the studio. He and his pals run back, intent on saving her back in the television studio. The room is all smoking now, and there's debris everywhere from the ruined set, and she can't see where she's going. The animals rushed back to the studio, where they found an open door with a piece of debris falling right in front of it. Rhino rolls his ball and props it up just as it falls, leaving just enough room for a bolt to slip in underneath the mittens, open the ball, and pull Rhino out just as the ball shatters under the weight and the debris falls the rest of the way down, blocking the exit. Bolt and Penny both run through the steel flaming set until they find each other. Penny can't believe it's Bolt and is overjoyed that he really came back to her, but they don't have much time to rejoice because the building is still on fire and Penny is weak from smoke inhalation. She grabs a piece of rope and tells Bolt to use the zoom trick. Bolt grabs onto the other end and uses it to guide her through the maze of wreckage. He finds an opening that he can fit into that will take them outside. But Penny is too weak and collapses from smoke inhalation. She tells Bolter to run away, but he goes over and sits by her side. Not willing to leave without her, he luckily gets an idea. He raises himself into his super bark pose and barks as loudly as he can into the vent. Fireman, here's the bark from outside coming from the vent. He makes everyone quiet, and they hear the Bolt bark again, proving that they're still inside. The firemen rushed in to rescue the two of them. Pennies were put on a stretcher and loaded into an ambulance. Although the emergency medical technician believes she will be fine, they will transport her to the hospital just in case Bolt is permitted to curl up next to her on the stretcher. Penny's agent weaseled his way into the ambulance and started worrying about how this would affect her career. So Penny's mom throws him out of the ambulance and tells him that they quit. However, the scene switches to a hospital bed, where a girl sits with bandages all over her face. The doctors say that the damage was worse than they had expected and that they had to rebuild her entire face as they peeled off the bandages. It's a girl who sort of resembles Penny with a similar haircut and green eyes, revealing that it's a new actress brought onto the show since the real Penny and her mother have quit the studio and moved on. The new girl looks in the mirror and says that at least Calico won't recognize her now, but one of the nurses picks up a syringe and lunges at her, only to reveal that it is Dr. Calico in disguise who has snuck into the hospital to kill her. Suddenly, a blast of laser vision knocks the syringe from Calico's hand just as Bolt, actually the trained acting dog, smashes through the hospital window, allowing Calico shakes his fist in anger at the aliens, knowing his plan to kill Penny and flee has failed. The screen goes black. It was actually a TV screen right now, which I just turned off in disgust, calling it totally unrealistic. Righto Mittens and Bolt have now moved in with Penny, and thanks to her mother, Bolt is no longer a TV star and can now be a real dog all of the time. This is where the movie ends. I hope you all like this movie. See you soon, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.